In last week's Ingram's Skin Sessions, we discussed acts of liberation, and it was amazing, and the growing movement of self-love and acceptance. And here's a quick recap.
4 years ago, I got so used to praising people, and I'm like, if I did that for myself, would it be so hard? So I started intentionally loving myself. You know, I started intentionally choosing myself.
Watinta bafazi, watinta mbogoto, which is the ultimate act of liberation. And the fact that I can remember that and remind myself the power of women all the time, and it's on my skin, that is for me the ultimate act of liberation.
So now that you're up to speed, today we continue this discussion and shift the focus to finding liberation during the COVID pandemic and how this time has given rise to certain trends like Skinimalism, a trend that is seeing consumers throwing away their inessential beauty products with a less is more approach, which is wonderful, as well as the rise of self-care during this time in general. It's all about taking a moment just to express self-love.
Which can be a difficult thing. I think many of us are still working from home at the moment, and in some cases have not even met our colleagues or clients in person, but have been able to form meaningful connections in spite of all this due to the new digital world that we find ourselves in. And joining us in studio to unpack these topics is life coach Kirsty Melmed and psychologist Dr. Asha Dullabh. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. So interesting. This is so interesting to me because everything's changed.
Oh, yes, of course.
Everything has changed.
So if I think about how we have perceived ourselves during this particular period, we have been confronted with ourselves quite often.
Big mirror, boom.
And it's always been, and it's not only a mirror, it's the Zoom call. You know, you're seeing in front of you, and that's how it happens. So either one of you, possibly even both, self-care and its importance right now, what do you think? Let's start with you, Doc.
I think self-care is a priority, and we all are adjusting to this new normal circumstance, and the new normal is actually giving us a time to introspect and say, what is our priorities right now? And I think people are becoming more aware of the necessity of self-care. We've stopped, we've paused, and we're realizing we need to do this. And the rest is coming into play. It's connection with people, connection with ourselves, becoming more authentic and real.
Yeah, I agree. I think self-care is really self-love in motion. You know, when you practice self-care, what you're doing is saying, I have needs and I value myself enough to take care of those needs.
Take that time,
Yeah.
So we've stripped away so much of the fluff and the nonsense. That's maybe one of the positive silver linings we've seen out of this period. On the flip side of that, there has been a massive strain on our mental health. There's been a 24.9% increase in mental illness globally because of the pressures of the pandemic. What advice do you have for those that have had their mental health, and I think we all sit on the spectrum in some sense, but have had that intensified because of lockdown and what we've gone through over the last year? Asha?
So it's definitely a time where we are all thrown into a survival mode, and we're trying to move from survival to thriving, and that takes a lot of time. So we need to have patience with ourselves. We need to listen carefully to what are our needs, what are our challenges, and how are we going to address them. You know, we need to seek out the help that we need. We need to ask for help. Support groups like SADC are available where they are helping people with depression and anxiety. We are seeing it on a daily basis. I think so many of us are trying to do this on our own, and now is the time to reach out and say, I do need help, because there's so many resources available that can help.
Create and use that network,
You know, so I'm going to go even broader now. Let's just say with corporate communications, you know, you have a Zoom call and somebody is seeing something on your bookshelf behind you. But sometimes it can become very negative when one is not only confronted with yourself, but when other people are prompting this discussion. And this actually weighs on somebody trying to interact with the world, doesn't it? Because now it's an electronic interaction, but yet it's hitting home because it's in your home, which is big.
Well, the thing is, you know, we're so busy trying to put on a mask and show people this very cultivated, perfect version of ourselves. And I think you've got to look deeper than that and say, what is it about me that I think is a problem. Why am I trying to hide these different parts of who I am that actually make me unique and beautiful? And so, you know, when people have those types of limiting beliefs of I'm not good enough, what they tend to do is act out or act in. And people who act in are the ones who are using the filters and the backgrounds, and they're trying to say, like, I don't feel good, so I'm going to hide myself from you. Whereas the people who act out are the ones who are judging the other people, because they're also not feeling good enough in some way, and rather project that outwards, like you said, than actually accept this is how I'm feeling, and that's pretty painful. So we need to start doing some deeper reflection. We need to start working on our relationships with ourselves so that we can feel more accepting.
Yeah, comfortable in the skin we're in. But you can still use a ring light. It's fine. Use a ring light.
That's fine.
You still want to look good.
Illumination.
I mean, that's great. One thing I realized at my son's birthday party, meeting a whole lot of the parents for the first time, and it was one of the first post-COVID kind of, well, I say post-COVID, but like in that window, engaging socially. And I was amazed at how quickly we all got to know each other. It wasn't like, okay, you do that job, you do this. It was like, okay, so your best friend's died of COVID and you've been out of work for 3 months, and now those boundaries have just been completely obliterated at the moment. But we do kind of need boundaries as well. They're a safety zone for us. We can't always be full on all the time. What advice, Asha, do you have for those of us that might be feeling like those boundaries have been blurred completely? And how do we go about establishing that safe space around us?
It's about saying no. It's about putting ourselves first, making decisions, saying yes to us. And that sometimes is difficult for others because we want to please others. We want to be in a role where we want to be there and help others. It's about just setting the boundary as to what is toxic in our lives, and let's set a boundary so that we don't allow that into our lives.
It's so difficult to motivate self-care. And because you're thinking, it's just me. I'm a vehicle for this occupation. I'm a vehicle for this parenting thing.
Well, there's a pride in self-sacrifice as well. Certainly as a guy, you're like, if I'm doing this, I'm proud of myself because I'm sacrificing this for my kids. It's a part of our makeup, you know?
So, Kirsty, from your side, how do you say, I actually need to do this self-care thing?
Yeah, well, I think like you just said, Graham, like about the keeping up that appearance, or people are dependent on you. And so if you want to be giving to other people, you have to be filling your own cup first. And I know that's like a cliched thing, but it's cliched because it's true. You know, we have to fill our cup first and serve from the overflow. And when it comes to self-care, what I teach my clients is to take a whole self approach. It's not as simple as just having a bubble bath, although that obviously can be great on a hard day, you know? But there are different aspects to us. We are physical bodies that need feeding and nourishing and rest. We are also emotional beings, so setting boundaries, like Asha said, you know, and making sure that we are feeling our feelings and acknowledging that they're there instead of pushing them down. That is self-care. And so it's learning to slow things down. And then, of course, spiritual self-care, making sure that we are doing whatever that means for you, whether it's praying, meditating, journaling, spending time in nature. Like, we have to fill our cup, but our whole cup, not just little parts. And that's how we can best serve.
I suppose the worst part of lockdown has been the best part of lockdown is we've got the time to reflect. We've got the opportunity to understand things on a deeper level. Now, maybe this has been this cool kind of watershed moment where the whole world is just getting real and becoming more authentic. So maybe that's the take home here. But I would just suggest, like, just get out and exercise. That's often it's the simplest thing. It doesn't require any complexity of your mind or anything like that. And it's amazing how much better you feel after just doing a little bit of something, just putting the brakes on and do something for yourself.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. Really, it was really inspiring conversation about how we should be, you know, filling our own cups and, of course, making sure that we are steady and ready for anything that the world holds out there. So thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Love it. Sure. Brave conversations we have to have.
Yeah, man. It's okay to be not okay as well, man.
Yeah.
But you can join in this very brave conversation and tell us how you show yourself love. And you can do it by replying to the competition post on the Expresso Facebook, Twitter or Instagram page with a photo and your answer. And please don't forget to use that hashtag, #YourSkinYourBrave. And you might just then get a first-hand session with Dr. Asha Dullabh on Friday morning, and added bonus standard chance of winning a 1,000 Rand voucher with Ingram's. And this competition closes on Friday, the 9th of July at midday. So get on it. But you can find, as always, the terms and conditions on ExpressoShow.com.
Nourish your skin with Ingram's Moisture Plus, enriched with triple glycerine. For 48-hour intensive moisture. Ingram's, your skin, your brave.